So here in the first two passages, one talking about before the flood, one talking about after, we have that the fountains of the earth, this is the actual internals of the earth, the actual internal part of the earth, actually burst forward. So this could indeed be referring to the water tables inside of the earth. This could be referring to the aquifers and the geysers that are inside of the earth. This is one source of where the water came from. Then we also have the ayah, وَقِيلَ يَا أَرْضُ بْلَعِي, and then it says, and we opened the gates of, and then it was said, O earth, swallow up your water. So we have the first part again, repeated, that the earth was to swallow up its water. وَيَا سَمَاءُ أُقْلِعِي, and O sky, withhold your rain. وَغِيدَ الْمَاءُ وَقُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ, so the water ceased and the matter was finished. So one of the sources mentioned is from the earth, possibly from aquifers, geysers, water tables, and then as well as the sky, which contains a great amount of moisture. Clouds could have easily gone overhead and released their water over what target Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had decided. In addition to this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, فَفَتَحْنَا أَبْوَابَ السَّمَاءِ بِمَاءٍ مُنْهَمِرٍ وَفَجَّرْنَا الْأَرْضَ عُيُونًا فَالْتَقَى الْمَاءُ عَلَى أَمْرٍ قَدْ قُدِرَ, and we opened the gates of the sky with water pouring forth, and we caused springs to gush forth from the earth. So the waters came together and mingled for a predetermined time. Surah Al-Qamar, the 54th surah, ayat 11 through 12. Now if we put all these ayat together, Surah Hud, the 11th surah, ayah 40, when our command came and the mountains of the earth burst forth, as well as the surah, and when it was said, O earth, swallow up your water, and O sky, withhold your rain, so the water ceased and the matter was finished, Surah Hud, the 11th surah, ayah 44, as well as the third surah we just quoted, and we opened the gates of the sky with water pouring forth, and we caused springs to gush forth from the earth. So the waters came together and mingled for a predetermined time. Surah Al-Qamar, the 54th surah, ayat 11 through 12. These passages tell us that the sources of the flood were deep within the earth, the sky, as well as aquifers, geysers, and springs that were contained therein. Therefore, we have sources for where the water came from, viable sources. Now, someone could ask, how long did this rain exactly happen? For a flood of this magnitude, how long did the rain take place? Well, Imam Ibn Atiyah, rahimahullah, again the historian and others have stated, quote, it has been related from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam who stated, indeed Nuh embarked in the ark the first day of Rajab, and he fasted all the time he was aboard. The boat carried on until the 10th of Muharram and rested on Al-Judi. Then Nuh and whoever was with him fasted this day. Closed quote. This is taken from Al-Muharrar al-Wajiz, pages 948 to 949. Now, Rajab is the 7th month of the Islamic calendar. And when it said that the boat carried on its journey until the 10th of Muharram, Muharram is the first month of the Muslim calendar. Now in between Rajab and Muharram, there are some 5 months. So this means the flood, in the form of the waters and everything else, was near enough 5 months. The flood was near enough 5 months. The next question is, were animals brought aboard the ark? Our answer is yes. The animals were brought aboard the ark. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قُلْ نَحْمِلْ فِيهَا مِنْ كُلِّ زَوْجَيْنِ اثْنَيْنِ وَأَهْلَكَ, and bring to it each kind of thing, male and female, and your family. Surah Hud, the 11th surah, ayah 40. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is commanding the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam to bring aboard every animal inside of the ark. Imam Ibn al-Jawzi rahimahullah stated about this ayah. He said, quote, the ayah means to take 2 of each thing, one male and one female. This is closed quote. This is taken from Zadul Masir fi Ilm al-Tafsir, page 653. Imam Ibn Atiyah rahimahullah also stated, quote, it has been related in the explanations of this ayah that Nuh alayhi salam came to the animals and put his right hand on the male and his left hand on the female. It has also been related that the first thing that entered into the boat was the small creatures, and the last thing that entered was the donkey. Closed quote. This is taken from Al-Muharrar al-Wajiz, page 945. One of our great scholars of the age, Imam Al-Izz ibn Abdus Salam, says the following. He says, quote, the two pairs means two of the Adamic human race and the beasts of the earth, one female, one male. Closed quote. It's taken from Tafsir al-Quran, pages 234 to 235. So what is this telling us? It's telling us that the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam took two of each animal, one male and one female, aboard the ark. He also took one of each human being, one male, one female, took them aboard the ark. Now, before we discuss the people that were taken aboard the ark, we want to ask a question that comes to many people's minds, and it is, how were all of the animals taken aboard? How could you possibly get all of the animals inside of a boat of the size of the ark? The size of the ark. How could you possibly get all those animals inside? How could they all have been fed? How could they all have been cared for? How is that possible? This is a valid question. Imam al-Husayn al-Baghawi rahimahullah, he actually gives us the answer. But first he explains the relation between the male and female animals, why that was the case. He says, quote, the two, male and female, are necessary, as one is not independent of the other. It has been mentioned in the story that when Nuh alayhi salam said, O Lord, how will I put the group of two in the ark? So Allah gathered to him the land animals, the predatory animals, reptiles, vermin, and birds. So he took with his hand each of every group. So he took with his right hand each male creature, and in the left hand each female creature. So he brought them in the boat. Closed quote. It's taken from Ma'alim al-Tanzil, page 619. So when he came to a group of animals, let's say for example tigers, he would place his right hand on the tiger, on the male tiger, and his left hand on the female, and lead them to the ark. Once getting them aboard, he would go to another species until finally they were all aboard. Now someone could say, what about insects? You've mentioned land animals, predatory animals, reptiles, vermin, and birds, but you have not mentioned insects. What about mosquitoes, flies, roaches, gnats, ants, honeybees, bumblebees, wasps? What happens about them? Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not order the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam to take them aboard the ark. One of the best reasons that could be explained why is because of the actual shelf life, if you could call it that, the actual shelf life of insects. The actual roach, as well as the beetle, is able to be submerged in water as well as frozen for an indeterminate period, and then taken out, thawed, or if in the water, taken out of the water, and then it revivifies. So there would be no point in taking them aboard the ark, because there would be no loss of species for insects such as the roach and others. The roach has an actual cranial capacity, as well as its shell is hard enough and thick enough and resilient enough to survive the radiation generated by a nuclear blast, let alone water. So these actual insects and vermin and other things would be able to survive a flood if they were able to survive the catastrophic conditions of nuclear radiation. So there would have been no need to take them aboard the ark, as they would have survived it. However, land animals such as tigers and cattle and other things would have been irrevocably destroyed and rendered extinct.